Howdy.
Howdy.
All right, got a lot of points. We're looking into spring 2018 registration, guys. Looking at holds for students in Northwest to register you. There has to be a clean record. No holds, no admissions hold, or anything like that. At this stage, I don't see any admissions hold for you guys, but I have seen some of you that haven't done the sexual harassment training. That's one of those holds that I haven't, or that I can't lift temporarily to register you because the university has a very active campaign on that sort. So if you haven't done your sexual harassment training, please go ahead and do that. I heard that it's a 45 to 50-minute long training, so plan an afternoon or a weekend to get that done. Yes?
So there's two parts to it.
Uh-huh.
I did one part,
Yeah.
but that took me 2 hours.
Yes.
And then they said I have to wait for a month.
Yeah.
Take the second
That's
part.
where
Say the
I'm
second
at.
Is that the case?
Yes. Yeah.
But it should lift the hold at that point, right? I think so.
Can you
I
see
think
the
it should
hold?
lift the hold once you do that first one.
I didn't part one.
I got it.
Yes, so I guess if you do the first one, you should be good to go.
Okay, I got an email today to register in spring. Is that the reason why I got it today?
Yes.
But I'm not going to use
I'll double check your.
I think everybody has the same thing.
Yeah, but if you have done at least that first one, then you should be good to go, but I will double check. But what I want everybody to do is to at least do that first training, please.
You didn't do that?
What did you do?
Sam fudged the system. Sam not, Cam. Sam not. He fudged it.
Okay, let's talk about time series.
I got the second part, but finish it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited myself. So tonight we want to talk about multiple predictor regression models. So in retail, there are what I call the back of the envelope calculations that restaurateurs have. How many pieces of Scottish salmon should we import for the weekend? Is it a long weekend? Is there a holiday? Are the Astros playing at home in a big game? So we learned how to look at one predictor, and one predictor is real easy because you just get to look at one block, y versus the one predictor. And so tonight we're going to look at multiple predictors. The first one is going to be about Chipotle restaurants and their revenue. And the second one's going to be about revenue from Broadway shows. And there are folks who do the second models for a living, because the data is public. So they have their own data, which is much more detailed than they have public data. So let's get started. So here we want multiple deterministic predictors. We'll talk about what we mean by deterministic. We mean that they're not a time series themselves. So here we wish to develop a time series model for quarterly revenue of Chipotle Mexican Grill. So we're going to look at Chipotle revenue from when they started the first quarter of 2004 through to the second quarter of 2017 in order to predict the third. So at 3:30 Eastern Time, they announced their revenue for the third quarter. So I have an addendum which looks at what we have versus what happened. That's not being posted. So the regression model we're going to have a look at is the total number of existing stores at the beginning of each quarter, how many existing restaurants do they have, and then how many restaurants that are open in that quarter. Now you'd expect the effect of variable 1 to be much stronger than the effect of variable 2. Okay. And the reason I use those two variables is because they're publicly available. They're in the annual report and they're in the quarterly results. Now, Chipotle gets interesting because they had some safety scares, food safety years. Had problems in July, in October, in August, in December, in August and December. This was in 2015. So here's a plot of the data. We're just going to do a regular regression model, look did last week. Now, if you have a look, the line versus the line is a reasonable fit, except when you actually come down here and have a look at the residual plot. It seems to me that we have increasing variance. Increasing variance. And it also makes sense for a percentage play here, right? If we open more restaurants, we're thinking about percentage increases in sales. So like $10 million increase on 10 million is a lot more than a 10 million increase on 100 million. So a percentage play here sounds reasonable. Andrew, you were going to ask something?
I was just wondering if you coordinated the lecture with the family meeting
With pizza? No. All I did was to say to hubby, yeah, mate, let's get meat lovers rather than Supreme. So, I'm going to transform the revenue and the predictors, and things look a lot better. So this is the Y versus the Y hat plot. These are the added variable or leverage plots. You can see that variance inflation factors are not a big issue, right? Points of spread. The new store openings has a negative coefficient which is not significant, but I don't believe these p-values because we've assumed that the errors are white noise. Now, when I actually have a look at the residuals, I see this kind of up and down roller coaster with some outliers. And I'm going to call those outliers rather than increased variance because they know stuff happened around the health schemes. Are we good?
Happen around what, sir?
Happened with the health scares. Lots of people didn't go. So Javier and I, we just, that's one of our favourites. So we will walk across from the university to the local store, and there used to be a much longer line at lunchtime than there has been recently. It's my empirical observation. So here's a plot of the residuals. Yes?
Why did you say that the negative coefficient for new opening because it's not insignificant during?
I don't believe that because, so one, I'm using an inefficient method. This is not the most powerful method. I don't believe the p-values because they're under the assumption that the errors are white noise, and they're clearly not. Look, the errors are not white noise. The residuals are not white noise. So, when you look at the residuals, you see something has happened here and here. Possibly two level shifts, right? So, if we were to look at the ACF and the PACF, what pops out of that porridge?
Two and five.
It's really hard to see, isn't it? Nothing is really very good, yes? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 7 lags, because this is just barely significant. Right? I'm going to put in 7 lags, being conservative. Yes? Being conservative. I'm going to do a Riemann model group with no intercept. Why do I put no intercept? Because we have residuals. Residuals have no intercept by definition, means 0. And I'm going to look up to 7 and 7. And it picks MA2 first, ARMA 1, 2, and then AR5. Yes, based on SPC. Now we've got to be a bit cautious here because we know we have big outliers and level shifts. Sorry, I'm getting a bit loud. Because of the inherent nature of the data of the company. So I'm not going to bet my house on these results. But let's start with MA2. Does that seem reasonable? So, The residuals we modelled as MA2 and we passed the white noise test. Yes?
This is still the residual of the residual, right?
Yes.
Yes, the residuals of the residuals, yes. But you guys want to do triple differences, the differences of the differences of the differences. Or on Monday nights, as I say in some of these calls, that's the clarification of last week's clarification. We good? Yes. But we know the process, don't we? Now, we're considering MA2. Alright? You can see something funny happens up here. So, it's pretty easy. We're going to put an input as our X predictors. And we're going to say Q equals 2. Now, I'm going to say that Chipotle knows how many existing stores they have, right? At the end of the previous quarter, and they have a plan for how many stores they're going to have this quarter, next quarter. So I'm saying they're essentially deterministic. They're not like the price of oil or the consumer price index. They're effectively deterministic. I don't need to do a time series on those stores. Okay? And then we find, as we expect, one shift, or at least one shift, and two additive outliers. And remember, because Y is logged, you can effectively estimate, interpret these approximately as at 0.49 there was a shift down of around 13%. In quarter 40 there was an additive outlier of minus 10%. In quarter 47 there was an additive outlier of plus 7%. Okay. Then we have a look at the white noise. Looks okay? Yes? So what are we going to do? We're going to go back and include these in the model.
Yep.
Right? We go back and we include these in the model. Oh, first, before we do that, let's look at the output between least squares minus 2.38 for the MA2 errors minus 2.42. Pretty similar, right?
Yep.
Log existing scores 1.22 versus 1.25. Pretty similar.
Thank you.
Log of new stores 0.03 versus minus 0.02. Not significant versus just significant. Interesting, right? We're still not happy with that model because we've got outliers and level shifts we haven't taken account of. But notice how things can change a lot. And this is an MA structure, so it's hard to predict in advance what's going to happen to the standard errors. With an AR structure with positive phi, the standard errors are going to get bigger when you allow for the time series.
So, Dr. Shearer,
Yes.
so last class we discussed that even if we neglect the autocorrelation structure of the errors, the beta coefficients were
It's
correct.
consistent. It's consistent, but it's not efficient.
So we still assume that even if they're slightly different, that difference is acceptable? I mean,
No, so again, you're saying that these things are small, so they're hard to estimate.
yeah.
So I want to be on the most efficient team.
Okay.
Okay? So, calculate our level shifts and additive outliers variables, add those in our input. Off we go. And oh my golly gosh, what happens? So the errors don't look like white noise, right? What's even more concerning is look at this. And I did this with conditional least squares. I have the code on the eCampus for both maximum likelihood and conditional least squares. And conditional least squares gives unstable estimates. Why does it give unstable estimates? There's an MA
There's
coefficient
a
exactly
1.00, yeah.
It's right on that stability edge, right? Yep. It's right on that stability edge.
And why did you use CLS?
Because when I use maximum likelihood, it said this is unstable. And most of the time when you switch out maximum likelihood and put conditional least squares, like in the last homework, it remains stable. And hello, here it doesn't. Haven't seen that happen that much, but guess what? This is your class. Everything happens with your class.
So we make some tea.
So, conclusions, the model doesn't appear valid and it's not stable. Doesn't sound like a good idea, does it? Now let's think about it. Are we wanting the really best model for the errors? We just want a relatively straightforward valid model, don't we? Yes? A straightforward valid model. So the obvious thing to do is to go back and look at the second last. What finished second? And ARMA 1-2 did. And you get a similar story. I'll let you discover that story on your own. So the next one is AR5, which if you look, you know, the PACF cuts off at level 5, but look at all this nothing in between. So it's really, AR5 is not really that clear, is it? Not really that clear. But remember, these plots are ruined by the outliers and the level shifts. Anyway, so let's pick AR5 as the next one. I did do the ARMA one, but I'm not going to bore you with all the slides. So, that should say P equals 5. I don't know why it says Q equals 5. Yeah, that's a typo. That should say P equals 5. It does in the code on the eCampus because this is the output. And it finds 2 outliers and 2 level shifts. And again, notice that this coefficient of new store openings is small, positive, and statistically significant. Notice also that the AR coefficients are all significant except 3. Lag 3 is not significant. Right? Lag 3 is not significant.
AR11 is very close to 1.
Yeah, but again, this is in an AR5 thing, so that's not, it's not giving us this instability. The MA's close to 1 always gives a problem. ARs, if the coefficients are pluses and minuses and balanced out, it's not such a big deal. This passes the white noise test, yes? We good? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this with least squares. Minus 2.48 minus 2.42, 1.23 minus 1.25, and again, this coefficient is a bit different. Yes?
Does it make sense that lag 1 or 2 are significant, but then lag 3 is not significant, and then lag 4 and 5 are significant?
It's called a gap model, sir. It's called a gap model. So looking ahead in this movie, I'm going to tell you that when you start fitting regression models and have a look at the residuals, weird time series pop out of your porridge. You don't need all the lags. Okay? We just fast forward after the intermission to that point. Okay. So I'm going to do a gap model. So I'm going to put P equals parentheses 1, 2, 4, 5. That means I want AR1, AR2, AR4, AR5. Okay? Because if you look back here, AR3 is not significant. Are we good?
That shouldn't make a difference though.
It doesn't make a difference. They're trying to be parsimonious. We good? It doesn't really make a difference. We allow for the outliers. We get one thing here, right? The rest kind of pass. Right? We get one thing that's above. You know, life is not perfect. Last year this passed with flying colours. But guess what? This is you guys, and get one thing that pops out. And the other thing which is really interesting is this level shift when you put it in is barely significant. It's right on that board. I'm just going to leave it. I could remove it, but I'm just going to leave it.
So Dr. Sheeran,
Yeah,
in 608, you mentioned that when we start removing terms, the p-values are wrong because we're kind of artificially...
right, if we're doing lots of steps of model selection.
Now, does that happen here?
Yeah, if we were going through thousands and thousands of models. Right.
So can we believe the p-values even if we start removing lags and...
Again, if you do a handful of these, blow your hair back.
Okay.
If you go through thousands of iterations, don't believe the p-value. Yes?
Can you fit something like this through a stepwise iteration?
You probably can, Sam, but it's against my religion, mate. So all I'm saying here is, we find, you don't even have to do this. This is a teaching experience. Imagine, well, because when we look at the next example, I'm going to remove 6 lags, or I'm going to remove 5. So it's just to try and way to make it parsimonious. You don't want stuff in the model that's junk, that's actually trying to estimate something that doesn't exist. It has the potential to make things much more complicated. Here with just 1 lag, you could leave it. It doesn't make a material difference. Is that okay? But yes, if we were doing AR20, if the 20th lag was big, we could do stepwise, but I've never seen one of those happen to me. Okay. So we can interpret the coefficients. Here's this 1.25. This says for every 1% increase in existing stores, Chipotle's quarterly revenue is expected to increase by 1.25%. That's not bad. Sounds about right, doesn't it? Have a look at the new stores, statistically significant, and notice they're statistically significant in every model we fit with valid errors. We get, for a 1% increase in new stores, we get a 0.03% increase in sales. Significant, but not practically important. We good? So, then we get to make a prediction. We use the SAS code, and here's our prediction. 7.1671 on the log scale, we exponentiated $1.3 billion. And here are our fits. If you look at the picture, what do you see? Looks pretty damn good, doesn't it? Yes? Looks pretty good. So that's one model. And here's a blown up version of the picture. And the interesting thing is, this predicts a big increase, right? A big increase. Now, I have to estimate the number of new stores. I estimated 50, and they only opened 36. But that coefficient is so small, it's not really going to change my answer much. That seem reasonable? Now, there's a lot more going on than just the number of stores, right? I'd love to get hold of some of their traffic data. This is just all we know about public. Even same store sales. But again, that's hard to get. But internally, I believe you could come up with a really fantastic one.
Can you get like quarterly calls where they say how many stores they plan to open that quarter? Or
You can do all of that. You can look at the annual report. Yes, that's where I got the 50 from. But it turns out they've had a change in plan, and they're scaling back the number of new stores.
that's just where I got it.
And then the other thing I did was look in the first quarter of the last few years, how many stores did they open roughly around. So, let's see if we can come up with just a time series model. What memory is in the time series? What seasonality? Let's see how we do with that. And that's always a good thing because you want something as a backup. Does this, which one does better? So sometimes this second one is very difficult to do, as we'll see. So, We're going to take logs to stabilise the variance. We're going to take a difference. Do we need to seasonally difference this? Is there very strong, persistent seasonality in these first differences? There's quarterly data.
Yes, Q2.
Yeah.
4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Only really lag 4 pops out of our porridge on the ACF, right? I don't see strong seasonality. But I had a feeling that not everybody would agree with me. Imagine that. So I'm going to let the ARIMA model group choose seasonal differencing or no seasonal differencing. And we'll see what it is. Okay? Against the white-haired bloke from Australia. So I just did 2 lags in each, which is a bit of overkill, and I allowed them to do seasonal differencing in no, and I left the intercept on, because if we don't do both sets of differencing, we need the intercept. Right? Does that make sense? If we just do first differencing, that's how much increase in revenue is there every quarter. And if we've got a thriving business, the revenue should be increasing, shouldn't it? Yes? So if we don't do that second set of differences, we need an intercept term. Alright? Here we go. And if you actually have a look at the first 50 or so models, what do they have for the seasonal difference?
4.
What do they have for the seasonal difference?
0.
Nada, nothing, 0. The white bloke with the white hair was right. The seasonality is not persistent. Yes? Yet if I hadn't searched over both, guess what? We'd be arguing about it, wouldn't we? But the great thing about statistics is an empirical science. So it picks 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0. So it wants you to difference the data quarter to quarter and have an MA term, this quarter versus last quarter, the error, and then it wants you to have an AR term 4 quarters ago. And then the second one it picks is MA in the last quarter and MA 4 quarters ago. Are we good? But we've got to be careful here too, because we've got outliers and level shifts floating around. So we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves.
But excuse me,
Yeah.
if you didn't add in the ARIMA model group the difference part, like the seasonal difference, you can still add P and Q for the seasonal part?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. You only put differencing and seasonality if the seasonality is persistent, which it is most of the time.
But you still have a seasonal effect because you still are saying that lag 4 is important.
It's important, but this is saying let's look at what the model fit is. Let's look at the model fit. The AR coefficient is 0.38. So we look at what happens this quarter versus 4 quarters is correlated 0.4. 8 quarters ago is 0.4 squared, 0.16. See how that's going out? So it's saying the seasonality is not persistent, it dies out.
Okay.
You really have to know just what happened 4 quarters ago. And again, we're following our rules, aren't we? You want to make something stationary before you fit a time series. And I say to you, if I put this on the final exam or something similar, you would say, I don't think you need to seasonally difference that, because the seasonality doesn't persist all through the ACF and the PACF. Right? Where's my Christmas tree? So where's my plus minus thing? Not there. Are we good?
Yep. So just to be clear, because we did,
Just to be clear, implying that I wasn't clear. Thank you, Sam. So let me clarify the unclarity. Yes,
you
sir.
are 100% clear, and on top of that,
Yeah.
so it is calculating the seasonally different ones, right? They're just not in the screenshot?
Yeah, it's just saying. Look, mate, I've only got so much landscape on the paper.
But
It
these are,
calculated it. Have a look. It did 0 and 1, right? Trust me, mate. Go and run the code and see right down the bottom all the ones with the seasonal differences. Okay? They're down here. Not shown. Remember, it did 162 models. I'm only showing you about the top 30. Okay? Are we good? Yeah, Mary.
So this would be the same like having a gap model 1004, I guess, because we're not looking at the persistent seasonality, but just the first one. So
There's many ways to write it, but remember the most important thing is you've got to difference the data first to make it stationary. Right? And on those stationary differences, we're going to look back 1 quarter and 4 quarters.
right.
Exactly?
Yeah.
Good. So let's do that. Identify outliers. And he comes up with 3 shifts and 1 additive outlier. The white noise looks beautiful at the start. Then we add them in. It doesn't find any extras. The white noise makes me weep with joy. Right? All good there, yes? Yes? The AL1 term is now 0.81. It's much stronger once we've allowed for the level shifts and the outliers. Right? Remember before it was like 0.37, 0.375. After we've allowed for the outliers and level shifts, it's 0.81. Yes?
When we log transform the target, like in this case,
Yes.
does that have any relationship with the significance level that we should use for outlier detection?
No. They're just numbers. Right? Why are we doing the log transform? We're doing that to make the variance constant. They're just numbers.
So 0.005 is typically a good level.
That's what I use, right?
Yep.
But here, have a look at it. They're all significant at 0001. Yes? So, you can interpret those outliers by using the formula. And it says there was a level shift in 2013 of minus 12%, 2014 of plus 20%, a level shift quarter 4 2015 of minus 15.5%, and then an additive outlier in 2016. So they went down 27% in 2 quarters, the revenue. Man, that's tough. If you think about a business, that's a lot of money to lose. If you think about margins, right? So, we get our fits, 7.11, and here we get 1.23 billion. We have a look at the plot. Again, it goes up, not as much as the previous one, and the fits are reasonable. There's a few places where they're a little bit out. But it does a mighty good job of following the curve, doesn't it? Mighty good job. And then, if we have a look at what I call the residuals, these are the sort of the within sample errors on a percentage basis. The middle 50% is -2 up to 1.3. -2.3 up to 1.4. Let's look at 10% to 90%, the middle 80%. You've got plus or minus 3.5, minus 3.7 plus 4. So we do pretty well, right? We're sort of within 10%, 7 or 8%, 80% of the time. That's pretty good, isn't it? Well, I think so. I look forward to seeing your projects. And will you post that file for me? Addendum?
Yes.
So, this afternoon, after these were posted this morning, now,
I don't live on Drive.
ah,
Sorry.
So, 1.3 billion, 1.23 billion, and they got 1.13 billion. So we were off by 8.8%. What'd you say, Satman?
DCM.
Don't come under, you're going to get me fired. Last year we beat all but two of the analysts.
But 8% is a lot, right?
Yeah, I know. So, if you look at our model, our models went straight up. Right? The past says in both of them, we're going up. Yes? Well, it didn't quite go up that high, did it? No? So, welcome to the real world. It's sobering, right? We don't have enough predictors. Yes? So, it'll be interesting when I do this next year with a different group. This might be an additive outline. Or there might be another level shift. Who knows? But it's pretty sobering because if you look at the rest of the predictions in sample, we were pretty good. Right? In sample, we were pretty good. And last year, as I say, we put all but two of the analysts. There you go. Question? Mary?
Is it, now that today we know the results, is it too early to say if it was an outlier or?
Well, I can put it in and I can run the model and test whether it's an outlier. But see, I wanted to do this before it was announced.
Right.
Okay?
Well, you could say quite possibly is because the whole market wasn't expecting it. It's down like 10%.
The stock price went down.
Yeah.
So I think the expectation was that the sales were going to be higher. But I can now, when I rush home, or up here as the driver, I can get out my laptop, I can fit a model and see if this is an additive outlier. I can't tell if it's a level shift because I've got just 1 point. But if you think about it, we didn't have that much information, did we? And generally we did okay. Everybody was expecting a big increase in sales. If you look at what CNBC wrote since 4:30 Eastern Time, Chipotle's earnings disappoint. But hey, it is what it is. I would bow down to anybody who can get a better model on the public information. I think we did pretty good, right? But it's sobering. You don't always win this game.
So Dr. Shearer.
Yeah.
That's when I have a lot of problems with it, where you're 2 or 3% off, that's like 200 million, but out of 36 billion, 200 million is pretty good.
Right, and then it's all relative to the competitors. like last year, when we beat all but two of the analysts, we were sitting pretty, right? You only have to be better than the competitors. That's a great thing, isn't it? How many statistics professors are like me, mate? Not many. Jones is, in his own way. We've had great careers because we're different. But I'm really energized by the opportunities here if you had in-company data. Right? Foot traffic, same-store sales. They had the Chipotle Chiptopia loyalty card that Javier and I, we went berserk about. Well, we have none of that data. All we have is this loose public data.
But what about if you want to find a model to predict the next 4 quarters instead of just 1 quarter?
Yeah, you can do up to 4 because remember there's an AR4 term that's pretty strong.
We're seeing a miss here, sir, on both the top and bottom lines here. A big miss on the earnings per share.
Who is that?
Trying to find out what happened.
The folks at home, the
No, this was a Chipotle thing.
No, come on, it's Tata Gata.
Okay. Just be careful where we're putting this,
Man,
and I'm
Diego,
looking
you're
at
not
sued for
involved.
copyright,
Yeah,
okay?
brotherhood.
So
right
is
there.
Diego.
Watch this
Earned
at
quite a
home.
reputation now.
I know it wasn't me. This
Diego, what did you do?
I was looking at you, Sam, but you had your hands up, mate, wasn't you? So are we good about how this works? This is a relatively simple model. We don't have all the information that the company has, and I'm sure their models are much more sophisticated.
Dr. Shearer.
Yes.
So in the past, when we found additive outliers, each outlier is a dummy, separate
Yes.
dummy.
Yes.
But in real life, should we look at each one of them and find like a common denominator that can be like one predictor for, or 2 or 3 predictors that explain most of those additive
Yes.
outliers?
Yes. Yes. So for instance, the Christmas, the holidays, yes. So if we have weekly data, the Christmas week, yes. So we're always looking for that. But again, here, this is hard to know because we need forward-looking predictors. That's where we're heading. We want a time series that is a forward predictor of something happening, like last week's talk from Aaron. Right? That's the holy grail. But in order for us to do that, we need to know how to fit simpler models. Okay. So let's look at a realistic example. We're going to look at revenue on Broadway. So this is an old, relatively old article out of The Economist saying that you can make billions of dollars out of musicals, out of Broadway plays. Phantom of the Opera, more than 5 billion. Lion King, 5, etc., etc. And then last week in the New York Times, Bruce Springsteen, in the first week, brought in $2.33 million. He beat 26 other shows. The average ticket price was $497. Hamilton, which is supposed to be expensive, and Philistines like me, who don't even know who he is, has passed up the opportunity on a number of occasions to go to that play for that price. The average price for all shows is $129. And then if you look, the whole thing is sold out, but there are a few discounted tickets by lottery. He has an egalitarian streak, Springsteen. Was the regular, Bill and Barbara blogs, as we call them in Australia, be able to go. 29 productions grossed $30 million, up from $23 million. Overall grosses are up 20% over last year. Attendance is up 6%. It's a very competitive business. So Disney have an analytics conference, and I went last year. I didn't go this year because it was the same as boot camp. And I talked to the woman who actually does the Broadway plays, does the analysis of the Disney ones and the competitors, and her colleague does the ones in London, the West End. So we're going to do a real thing here. We're going to look at the Lion King. It started before 2009, but it moved theatres at the start of 2009. It's been in the same place ever since. We're going to look to August, and then we're going to predict the next 7 weeks. Okay? So, I'm going to start with a regression model. And I'm going to have categorical terms. Year, week of the year, and number of performances. So year goes from 9 to 17. Week of the year goes from 1 to 53. There were 53 weeks in the leap year. And there can be between 5 and 9 performances. There are typically 8. Now, I don't care about those estimates or the p-values. I want to look at the residuals. First, I want to look at the effects. Do they make sense? You can see the year effect seems to make sense. We put up the ticket price, so we're doing better. The performance effect, you have to be an insider to know. And then if you look at the weekly effects, look at the first week in the year, look at the last two, and look at Thanksgiving. You can't tell what they are, but I've looked carefully. I even checked that Thanksgiving is in the same week over all the years of the data. So the way people do this is they use this model. Tell me what week of the year it is, how many performances we're having, and what year we're in. And I'll give you a prediction. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? But it makes a lot of sense. You don't want to go around the holidays. If you have a look, you want to go in February. Yes? You want to go in February. Now the thing that's really tricky, here are the residuals. Hard to see what they do. Here's the residual plot. Now, what structure do you want for the errors? We have a weekly effect, so there shouldn't be, but it can sometimes happen, there shouldn't be a 52, 53 week effect. Because we're saying, if this is week 3, we've got a weekly effect in there. Right? So there shouldn't be any seasonality. Right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So, some of the predictors in the model are, what week is it? So it's week 43 this week. Well, last week was week 43. I just updated the date. Because we've got a week 43 effect, there shouldn't be any seasonality. The model's effectively saying, I'm going to look at week 43 across all the years in the data and adjust for the different years.
Yeah.
Yep. But if the seasonality is incredibly strong, pop out of your porridge, you know, through 3 brick walls, then it might show up. But generally when you use this, the seasonality goes away. Now, what shows here? What do we see? 7. This is weekly data. Lag 7 and lag 1. Lag 7. Shoot me now, will you? Lag 7. No, it's weekly data.
2 months ago.
It's not even 2 months ago, it's 7 weeks ago. There's not a 7-week seasonality. There isn't.
There's no seasonality.
No. It's just weird. So it happens. We're kind of mixing two things here. We're trying to put a lot of the time effects in as predictors, aren't we? And then what we get left over with is not vanilla. It's not vanilla. But here you say, you know, the being old professor, he beat up on exponential smoothing. Well, I'm not going to beat up on this because this is what people do. And all I'm going to say is, yeah, do that, but have time series errors. Because remember the time series errors say, if you're above the curve, you'll gender last week, you should be above the curve this week. Go with the flow. So what error structure are we going to try and fit? A Riemann model group is a horrible failure. Right? Because regular models won't work.
MA1?
Yeah, MA1, that could take up the first term.
And the 7.
Even C.
Something 7, right?
Yeah, MA1 or AR7.
So your choices are MA1 or AR1, and MA7 and AR7, right?
That's right.
Yes?
Yep.
So here's what I put. Here was my choice. Now, I'm going to pick the P equals 7. I just don't want any other lags except that 7 lag and Q equals 1. And then I've got all combinations of that. Right?
Why wouldn't you do AR1 and 7 and MA1 and 7?
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
P17.
This is AR7 and MA1.
No, right, but in one model, AR1 and 7 and MA1 and 7.
That's what it is.
That's what these are.
P
This
within
is
bracket.
P equals 1 and 7 is a gap model with AR terms 1 and 7.
I get it, but it doesn't have,
Both.
that model 3 doesn't have an MA term.
That's right.
No.
Model 4 doesn't have an AR term.
So
I
why-
took all combinations of what's possible.
Yes, and so I'm asking, why isn't there a model 5?
Okay, here we go. Thank you, sons. I'd love to have a model 5. What is it, mate?
No, just asking.
Now
why-
tell me.
Why can't there be a model with AR and MA terms?
That's what it is. Number
That's
2.
what the first two are.
First 2 are.
But for both, for 1 and 7.
1 and 7. on each
AR1,
side.
AR7, MA1, MA7.
Oh, you want to do both?
Combining 3 and 4.
Oh, just P is equal to 1 and
P equals 1, Q equals 1.
And P equals 7, Q equals 7.
Okay.
I mean, is that not...
Sons, mate, you're an original thinker. I've looked at this data 3 years in a row and I've never thought to do that. And again, to pull up here, I'm never getting to pull over so I can try to get something on my own. I haven't thought of it, but there's not a good reason not to do it.
I'm just curious if the,
Yeah, I
if the
will,
ACF and
mate.
PCF...
Come to, usually you just need one term. You know, you don't need to do both. You either pick the AR or the MA and not hammer it with both. But there's no rule. Okay. Let's go. I fit the first one. P equals 7, Q equals 1. And all the possibilities. Let's look at the error structure. Passes. Not sure. Well, that kind of does. These two probably do, those two. Which has the lowest SBC?
First one.
Which one has the lowest SBC?
First one.
First one. That says you want an AR7
No,
term.
That's the other one. Yeah.
This is the one we're going to
Right.
go for. This one.
Yeah. P7.
Oh,
Q.
Did I get that right?
yes.
Yes. But you could just as easily have done this one over here, right? Either of those are done. So, I fit the first one, come up with some estimates. Here are our fits. And here are our predictions. Now, in sample, the middle 80%, minus 6% to plus 5%. So like plus or minus 5%. From what I know, talking to these people, that's pretty good. We get to within plus or minus 5% most of the time. Yes? Now let's look at how we did going forward. Red is the truth, blue is the prediction. We did good, we did good, we did good, we did terrible. Right? We're off by $20,000. We're off by $20,000 1 week.
That's still okay.
Well, it's about 10%. And if you listen to my, bosses in the back row, they say I'm going to get fired for that. Now, we haven't fit outliers here, which we could. They don't typically do that. Yeah, yes, Andrew.
No, I'm just sketching, sorry.
Okay, so,
I do have a question.
Doctor?
yes,
Slide 53. What are we seeing in the distribution, just for clarity? What are you showing there in the distribution? You
the
have
percentage residual error. So the difference between actual and forecast in sample, right, divided by the correct answer.
Can you go to the next slide? What is that graph on the right-hand side?
That's the graph of the residual, how much we're off by.
Okay.
Plus 11, minus 6, minus 7, plus 1.
Okay.
So, Aaron.
And the only reason we are looking forward 7 weeks here is because we have a lag of 7.
No, I just did 7 because I thought I wanted to cut off 2 months.
Sure.
And I didn't know about the 7, so I started doing it.
Okay.
That's just a miracle coincidence. All right. Okay. So now I want you to do this on Wicked. So I have an example, which is a class exercise. Because the devil is in the details. And I've set up the data for you, and I want you to do that. And I'm going to come around and talk to each group in detail about their project. How does that sound? Good. Because we're now about doing stuff. Okay? So let's take a little break, and then I'll see you back here at 8:30. Welcome back. I thought that was a pretty good work period. I got around to each of the groups. There's some very interesting projects floating around. Some of the groups I want to come back and talk to again next week. But otherwise, we're good. Let's look at the wicked, which is pretty wicked, isn't it? Yes? So let's talk about the steps that we use. We fit a linear model with week of the year and performances, and we save the residuals, right? Yes?
Yes.
And then for the residuals, we look at the ACF and the PACF. What do we see? Kind of goes to lag 7, doesn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Goes to lag 7. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Then you can do a REMA model group, which I just put in 7 and 7. And then have a look at poor old AIC. It wants to fit an ARMA 7, 7. Just shoot me now, will you? That can't be right. Right? So it can't possibly be parsimonious. So we're going to sort by column SBC.
Yep.
And it says AR1.
Mm-hmm. It's not valid.
It's not valid. No. Look at it. It's got no chance at all, right? Look at that. Lights up like the Christmas tree, like dear old mums. Yes? She used to have this little battery Santa Claus that wandered around. But you had to hold there was no remote, it was connected to the Santa. Anyway, down memory lane. So, that's not going to work. What do you think's going to work? Did people try ARMA 2-3?
Yeah, we tried 3-3 as well. 3-3 worked.
We did 3-3.
Does 3-3 work?
Pretty good.
Looks pretty good, doesn't it?
But there's a problem with the AR1 coefficient.
Yeah, so you might need a gap model.
But we haven't fit the outliers yet.
Well, we're not really fitting outliers in this, right? Because remember what we're trying to do is we could go back. You know, we're just doing the vanilla ice cream here. You know, the people who do this don't use time series errors. Right? So we're taking them from the linear model with assuming the errors are IID or white noise to say, no, don't do that. There's some autocorrelation in the error. Yep. Yeah.
So one thing I tried that, I don't know if it's crazy, but lag 52.
Lag 52. You winding me up, sir? You winding me up?
No, let me finish.
Yeah. Please.
SBC was lower and it was parsimonious.
Okay. All right, you can try that, no problems.
So I wonder if there is a
There's
lag
still some
effect.
seasonality, there can be. There's still can be some seasonality, yep.
So what's valid, parsimonious, and
Okay,
lower
so
SBC?
Diego, you explained to me as the manager of a Broadway play that I've adjusted for this week last year, and you're also telling me I need a 52-week lag term? Excuse me, Professor, it's like, mate, I've already adjusted for that.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, you're trying to explain to these guys, come on. Yeah, but you can.
I mean, what would that mean?
It means that the seasonality is so strong, right, that what you're doing is doing average seasonality. That what it says is you look back 52 weeks, and that term is based on the average across all the years, right? But with your thing, you're saying that the more recent 52 weeks is much, much stronger. And that's true if the seasonality is really strong, like Christmas tree seasonality. But this isn't really like Christmas tree seasonality.
But the SBC is lower.
Yeah, so please, I look forward to reading your solution next week. Oh, I love reading your solutions.
Sure.
You've got to, mate. It's like every week you hand stuff in, I've got to read it, right? So we it's a two-way story. So, yes, Taffy, go.
Yeah, I still don't understand why we don't need to identify the outliers.
Well, we could, but that's not what's done in practice, right? That's not what's done in practice.
The
But
problem
yes.
is when we did that, we saw white noise coming back.
So let's talk about what you would do in an ideal world. You would go and take your model that you think is fit, this ARMA 3.3, you identify outliers. In fact, let's do that. Right? How would we do that? We would go ARMA 3.3, create SAS job.
Yep. Suspense.
You guys have much faster computers than the one that's in this podium. Warning, estimates may not have converged. Did you find that? The white noise doesn't look too chipper either. And it finds many, many outliers. Many. It didn't converge.
Dr. Shiva, we log transform.
Yes, we did
It
that.
worked a lot better.
It works better if you log transform?
Yes.
Okay, we can do that. But let's try CLS. But the point here is going to be, you're going to find a lot of outliers.
We did.
More than 50, right?
No,
No.
like 16.
Yeah, we got 17.
Yeah, but did you then put the 17 in and then redo it?
Yes,
And you found none?
yes.
Go.
There was 13 and then 14.
So at least it converged this time.
White noise system.
The white noise is terrible. Right, the white noise is terrible, but at least it converged. And then have a look at a lot of these things that are not significant. So it seems that we should use a log transformation. Is that what everybody did?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay, well, let's try that then. Shall we do that?
The other question I had was why did you have those
Okay, one
binary
question at a
columns?
time, Doctor.
So here's the deal.
Trying to solve this one.
SAS does not take categorical variables in Procorina.
Okay.
So I went to all the trouble to change every categorical variable into a series of dummies.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to call the helpline anymore. You laugh.
We'll call on your behalf.
Don't
Let's
laugh.
say your name.
Those were 52, yeah. Those are 52 dummies.
Long.
Is there an easier way to do it, or you have to do it one by one?
There's an easy way to do it in Jump. You just go columns, column utilities, and then it says make dummy variables.
So, for SAS week, it has to be that way.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
Procorina.
that's what he said. We were
Yeah.
wondering.
Write it down.
Okay, doesn't change much, does it? Right? So what models do people fit for this?
I still go 3-3.
All right, let's go with the crowd. Armour 3-3.
Mm.
Well, the first two A are not significant. Did you find that?
Yes.
That passes. And there are a lot of outliers, aren't there?
Mm.
Now, you can do the outlier thing. It would be good if you found reasons for the outliers. Then you could include dummies for those. But you've got to be careful that they're across weeks, right? So imagine that you find, so it could be that Easter changes. Right? Easter's not in the same week.
Oh, okay.
But it won't be Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving's in the same week each time. So that should be modeled by the week effect.
Okay.
Next week, we're going to look at this artificial intelligence software from SAS, where you can say, create dummy variables for holidays. And you just click on the holiday, and it puts those predictors in. Alejandro.
Yeah, so 2 questions. First, you mentioned that in practice, you don't do the outliers. Can you refresh it really why? I just want to understand.
Well, so in practice, not me, mate. This is what the people who do this. In practice, what they do is typically the least squares model. They don't even fit the time series model to the residuals. Right? The very first LS fit model is what they do. So I'm just saying we're kicking the can a long way down the road by saying let's take account of this AR3 MA3 structure.
And my second question was, in the previous example, when you did a log transform, you checked for the residuals plot here, and they look like white noise in Jump.
But they didn't in the other.
So, yes, can you mention there?
They do different tests. That's why if you change the code, when you say create the SAS job in Jump, it puts this white noise ignore missing thing to get those tests to match. SAS has a slightly different version of it. Right? They don't match the test. The implementation of the Leon box thing is slightly different.
So in the instance where they don't agree, because that happened to me, one was valid, the other one was not valid, what can I do?
Well, it says to me they're usually pretty close, right? So what I try and do is just improve the model. Right? I think the SAS one is harsher. It's generally a harsher test.
I'm sorry, hash means better?
No, harsh means is more, it typically is, you can pass the Jump test more often than the SAS test.
Okay.
So, the Jump test might be jump over this test. The SAS test might be jump over 3 tests. Right? So, what I wanted to do was give you an essence of the regression thing works, but it makes it tricky to get the time series part right, because you're sort of doing two things, aren't you? You're somehow taking account of some of the time effects, and then you've got kind of the leftovers, and that's not a natural time series sometimes, right? But if you look at retail, they often have these models that they've used for years. The back of the envelope things. The woman in Sydney that had the small designer store, how many dresses do you order? She had a formula that was based on this regression thing. What about order regressions? You thought I was from another planet. Planet auto regression. So you know me, I'm about pushing the envelope, but we want to start with what they have. So, what I suggest, what you to do is in your groups, don't worry about the outliers. You can do that if you want, but that's more than the scope of this. I just wanted to give you experience. It's like you go to a cooking demonstration. Oh yeah, I can make a souffle. You go home and try and do it, it's a different deal, isn't it? So I want you to come up with a model where you get valid estimates of those coefficients, right, in SAS with the reasonable time series model. And hopefully you'll have to use some gaps, right? Are we good? Everybody clear about what they need to do? Yes? And next week we're going to look at the SAS Artificial Intelligence System, SAS Forecast Studio. There'll be instructions about how to download it. And we're going to do it over 2 weeks. It will do great the first week, and then I'm going to beat the bejeebies out of it. Okay? Diego.
So, in 608 R squared, you didn't want us to compare it between log transform and not log transform.
Please don't do that. That's against my religion. Please don't do that in any circumstance.
What about SBC? Because in this example, we talk about log transforming. If I'm comparing both, it
That's
says...
a really good question. I don't think you can, because they're on different scales.
Okay.
They're functions of the residual sum squares. They're on different scales. Right? So no, please don't do that. Why do we do log transforms? To make models valid.
Yep.
To improve interpretability if we think percentage change is a reasonable thing, right? Yes? For every 1% increase in the number of stores, the revenue went up by X%. That was pretty interesting. It would be a good management report, would it not?
Professor, one question. Regarding the variables that we're inputting into the progression model that we're doing at the beginning.
Yep.
Shouldn't we normalize those variables considering that the variance between them is quite different?
So what are we talking about? Performances, year and week of the year. They're all dummy variables.
Categorical.
They're categorical variables. So there's no need to normalize.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, sir.
Right? And then I went and did all the hard work for you. So if you want to see how to do this, you go here, columns, column utilities, make indicator columns. You could take any categorical variable and make indicator columns. And then I just drop the first one and stick all the rest in the model. Good? And again, it's just because SAS Proc Arena doesn't work with categorical variables. So we're going to do the artificial intelligence system and get good at that, because that will help us with transfer function models. When we get completely befuddled, we transfer function models. So that the X is a time series, the Y is a time series. You know, the white-haired professor from Australia is home crying and gnashing his teeth because he can't get a model to fit. Even he will go and look at the artificial intelligence system and get a hint. Remember Aaron last week when he talked about denominator models? He got that out of the SAS Forecast Studio. All right, are we good? Yeah, together.
In the Proc-Arima code, we have an identify variable.
Yep.
Whatever that variable is, we are forecasting. We have a cross-core.
Cross-core.
All these dummies.
Yeah, cross-core, you put all the X's. And I have skirted around cross-core because it's a giant can of worms and I'm going to open up in 2 weeks.
Okay, but you also put input after that.
Yeah, input says they're the X's.
Right.
Cross-core, just humour me.
Okay.
You know how I don't like correlation? I don't like cross-correlation even more.
But we have to put that in the.
Right? These are the ex-in-laws showing up for Thanksgiving uninvited. You know how well that's going to work?
But that's how you know that you're doing it under residuals, right?
So, you know how I'm very strict about the word correlation? I'm even more strict about cross-correlation. I'm only going to let you look at that if you pre-whiten the date. And that sounds like gibberish, doesn't it? But you know how you went around talking about VIFs in 608? We're going to talk about pre-whitened cross-correlations. Is going to be beautiful. And people at your office will think you're a time series genius, which you are. You'll be able to scare some of the time series people. Okay? So it was a big answer, I know. But I have skirted the cross-correlation thing the whole semester. Diego's been really onto it, right, from the first week. So we'll be good.
So for now, we just put it in. We don't know why.
Yes.
Okay.
Did your mother say to you, shine your shoes and you don't know why, or wear the red socks on Tuesday? Just trust me, okay? We don't know why. Yes.
So on that, in both the input and the cross-core, you left out like performance 8 in week 1.
Yeah, because you can't put every dummy in.
Okay.
Then the model's over-parameterized. Right? If we have males and females, you just put females in because males is the opposite, right? You good? The reference. It's back to that old thing. If you have 3 levels, you put in 2 dummies. You good? And I usually just drop the first one. All right, fantastic. Thank you for a beautiful 3 hours. We kicked the can way down the road and there's all these cars chasing us and we're trying to pick up the can. Okay, look forward to next week. Diego.
Are we going to be able to see other teams' projects?
Are you going to be able to see other teams' projects?
It would be fun.
I think we should. We're not in the first semester, we're not that competitive. As long as you hand me the thumb drive at the start of the last class, yes, we'll all watch everybody's project. How about that? Is that good?
Very good.
Yes.
Make a difference.